And recording. Hello, good morning, UTSA faculty and students. This is the introductory meeting for the UTSA Electric Auto Association. Today, we're just going to be talking about the introduction of the organization and how it's going to be formed, some of the short-term goals and long-term goals. So the purpose of the organization is a few things. First off, to promote EV technology, to design EV components and systems, to compete in EV competitions, and to provide a healthy learning environment for motivated individuals to get real hands-on experience in upcoming industry. EVs are a sustainable solution for the transportation issue, and they also offer some performance advantages over traditional internal combustion engine vehicles, whether they're for performance or just commuting.
So in the short term, we're looking for really efficient funding. There's two ways we can tackle this main thing. One, we can go for financial, in which an org, a company, any individual just gives us a certain amount of money. By doing that, there's a really high chance of one, getting it, getting $100, getting $200. But on the other hand, we lose a lot of interaction with the company. By giving us money, it's like, here you go. We don't care what you do with it. Just give us a receipt. That's it. But by focusing more on, we need a set of tires. We need a new battery. We need something. There's going to be a lot more interaction between company and us, in which they can see their donations being held into project, into fruition, yeah, that one. That's the main thing we want to do. We have one of the things in which we're a nationwide chapter, and we're the first collegiate chapter of electric auto. By doing so, we have to set a standard on a nationwide series if we want to expand EV knowledge among other engineers, among other universities, and in upcoming industry. If we increase our membership, we're not talking about UTSA. We're thinking new high schools, middle schools, in which we can increase every possible outreach we can have for the next generation of engineers to be focusing more on what needs to be done for the future. Our kart has been a solid purchase. It took us, 6 months?
To procure everything that we have so far. And that's all just been in individual contributions so far.
Yes, so it took us about 6 months buying that kart after looking at 15, 18 carts. And we came up with a really good one. The previous owner screwed up the motor completely, like the drive shaft was sticking out of the motor. Wow, I saw it was bad. He had a cooling system and it didn't work. So I reached out to him. I was like, hey guys, is it okay if I purchase it without the motor? Like, yeah, fine. Motor's trash, we're not gonna fix it, and we're not gonna use it. So next thing we need to do, as Eric, Nick, and I were saying, we need it running. So what are the things we need immediately to get it running? We need a brushless motor, electric, has to be 8 horsepower, 19 feet. That's the limit we have. We're limited at this. We have to do proper calculations and get a proper gear ratio between the motor and the axle, because we're limited at 60?
Yeah.
We're limited at 60 miles per hour. So it's a matter of calculations and seeing what are we going to be doing during the race to optimize those 18 horsepower we have.
Right.
At what point of the race we want to do it. Odds are everyone is going to be using it the first minute, every two minutes, they're going to crash out, there's going to be an accident, and we don't want to get messed into that. We have two options. We can pull back or we can go all in. It's one or the other. Next thing we need is 20 batteries. If we're running a 48-volt system or a 72, depending on what we're going to be doing. If we're doing brake regen, we need a 72-volt system. If we're using 48-volt system, we can have a little bit more ampere hours.
Right. When we run the 72-volt system, it's lower amps.
Yes.
And because a lot of things are amp limited, we can get more peak power out. And for the battery system, there are a few options. Ideally, we would go with like a lightweight lithium-ion setup, but those are really expensive, and without like the right kind of sponsorship or partnership with a manufacturer of lithium ions, that's going to be the most expensive part of the cart. So depending on what our budget looks like, we might have to go with like a sealed absorbed glass mat battery. You know, the rule book basically excludes anything that's a liquid type battery. So lead acid and anything like that is out of the question.
Later on, we're going to have to decide, bend the rules, and see if we can do front braking, rear braking, anything that can give us a little bit of upgrade. If we can recharge batteries by running an alternator straight through the axle, it can be done. We can charge 5%, 10%, anything else.
Yes.
It's going to be a long race. We're talking about 3 days. And the major thing we have right now, it's the race. After that, if we do a good job, we can try and host our own race in San Antonio, Austin, New Braunfels. By doing that, we have already people in California racing their own series. We have Purdue racing. We can do our own race and start a nationwide circuit.
The Southern Conference of the EV Grand Prix.
Yes. After that, with proper approval, we can talk to Danny White, we can talk to WKA, and hopefully start a national championship where we can race at a host university that's into this. It's a long-term project. We're talking about 3 years, 4 years. Most of us are not going to be here, but if we get this up and running, it's a huge upgrade for us. The university has a lot at stake right now. They're giving us this space. We're getting a lot of help from them. We don't want to go into waste. We want to do a really good job. We're the first ones in Texas racing, so we want to do the best thing. I want a flag in the back that says "Come and take it."
Gotta lead by example. So after the cart's done, we'll do some driver development training so that everyone gets a chance to get their hands actually, you know, on the cart if that's something that they wish, and improve their own driving ability just for an individual entertainment and skill development. But ultimately, when it comes to the EV Grand Prix, when we're competing, there's a driver pre-selected that is a known championship winner, and so it's very likely that they'll be the one driving in the actual
He's a long
competition.
shot. He's the son of the owner of Texas Kart. His name's Tommy Mersch. He's a freshman at UTSA. He's studying computer engineering or mechanical engineering, I don't remember. He's a 5-time champion for Texas karting. So he's a secret weapon. He knows how to drive gas-powered. Let's see how he does on electrical.
Yep.
If we can get that safe in the box, we have a really good chance of winning the race.
So as we've mentioned before, some of the long-term goals of the organization is to provide opportunities for students to learn about EV technology. As Javier had mentioned, this goal is not a short-term, even the EV Grand Prix goal, we're looking at maybe 3 to 4 years of timeline. It's possible that we're able to compete for the 2021 race, but ultimately we're trying to build up an organization that's going to last at UTSA longer than we will and will benefit students in the future. We're also helping to advance EV tech by competing in these relevant races. The EV Grand Prix is just our first goal, our first short-term goal. As EVs gain prominence in the industry, we'll see more of those competitions rise. We're also going to be promoting EVs as a more sustainable method of transportation. Although we're competing in a racing event, the reality of the environment kind of forces us to re-examine our transportation, and EVs offer that a sustainable solution. And also to highlight some of the performance that's unique to EVs, like instantaneous torque. And as we were mentioning for this race, because we're speed limited, we can actually just run a single gear and base that off of the highest speed that will be going on that race, because there's no stall torque, stall RPM on the motor. You can have it at 0 RPM or max RPM, and there's not much of a difference there.
I believe we have on the rules or race procedures, I don't remember. I think we touched it about 4 months ago. The race is worth what percent? 10?
The race is a good percent. That community outreach is another good percent. The actual efficiency of the machine is also highly weighted.
I think design is the highest one, outreach is the lowest, and the race is, I think, 20 or 30%.
Yeah.
I
So
got
this
it.
isn't just a race. It's really about promoting the technology as a whole.
We're already at a downside. Purdue got a $6 million grant by the Department of Energy. So they have 30 teams racing with pretty much unlimited capital.
Right. They've got a $6 million budget.
So for us, we're racing on a $5,000 to $7,000 budget, including food, travel, hotels, and expenses over there.
So as Javier was saying, we should pursue sponsorship from relevant industries because we're more likely to have a continued relationship with them so that they can see not only a return on their investment, but some utilization of their products. For instance, if we partner with a battery manufacturer, that's getting their name out there as well. So it's going to benefit us and them to partner with relevant industries. And without the sponsorship and funding, the organization is going to have a lot of difficulty really lifting off. The EV cart, conservative estimate is, anywhere from $5,000 to $7,000 in total, including the batteries and the motor controller and regen. And it's not the most expensive project, which is really nice. And a lot of that is due to the constraints of the competition.
One of the things I really want to emphasize is UTSA has been a huge help for us. They have lent us this space, tools. We can do anything in the machine shop that we can do. We spoke with Dr. Hood. He's available for 3D printing. He's a huge help to design any cases. Even though he's biomedical, he's a huge help.
Awesome.
And one of the things I really want to touch is if we do this as a conjunction project with fellow engineers outside of this organization, if we touch ASME, FSAE, IEEE, anyone from Power Energy Society, the more people we can get involved, the greater this project is going to be. And I can't stress this enough, but it's important to get more people involved.
Yes. And, additional financial assistance would be helpful for getting us all to Indianapolis for the competition, which is going to include travel, convoying us all up there, the cart itself, some hotel stay and food while we're there. And depending on sponsorship, that might end up being an individual contribution from those who participate in the competition. But the bottom line is we need sponsorship.
So as many of all y'all already know, this race is going to be at IMS, Indianapolis Motor Speedway. There's about 30 universities designed only for racing. So we're competing against the top-notch guys. This race is going to be really important. California already has theirs. So sooner or later, we're going to get something here. And it's better if we host it, if we start on it, than just riding the bus with someone else.
Yeah.
So the specs, they're limited. There's a rule book we would like to attach later today. That way everyone can read it, everyone can see it. And we have to follow and abide by any one of those as much as we can.
Yes. So the EV Grand Prix hosted by Purdue, they actually have multiple competitions that they host. There's a high school competition where they don't actually design the cart. They buy a pre-built EV cart, or they buy a pre-assembled EV cart kit that they then attach to a defined chassis.
It's a spec car, but top part.
Right. It doesn't allow for the amount of flexibility and design creativity that the international collegiate competition offers. And they actually also started an autonomous competition, which might be a good future goal for the UTSA Electric Auto Association, as many cars are moving to autonomous transportation.
It's a self-driven car with a bunch of sensors around it. And there's no accidents. but they go like 20 miles an hour. It's super slow.
They go, but it's picking up, and that's what we have pictured here. And you can see their front-facing camera. And you know, some of them are going to use LiDAR. Some of them are actually just going to use visual camera data. That if we get into that, we can look at the details there. But for the collegiate competition, because the kart doesn't require that much money, even though these other teams have huge budgets, we've looked into the details of the rulebook. We've looked into the details of some of the componentry that we feel would be advantageous, and we have some experience in electrifying other transportation from bikes and working on electric vehicles. So I think we have a good skill set to win the collegiate competition. Victory is very attainable. And does anyone have any questions?
Each one of you has been carefully and meticulously assigned a spot for the opening board. After thorough consideration, conversations with every one of you, we have figured out what is going to be your optimal position for us and for you. Something that you're comfortable with, that you already mastered, and something that you can probably learn. And at the same time, as growing with us, you can grow by yourself.
As far as like reaching out to high school groups, all that stuff, actually optimals to every public school in the same capacity this morning. Send sort of email out to the public, so I wouldn't have no issue with getting that list, all the email lists. You guys want any specific high schools from chapter there's only more you know, probably make it a lot easier for us to become a non-profit organization. I don't know what
Absolutely.
but it's also definitely give companies a lot more incentive
Right.
to at least one.
Absolutely.
Yes, we are a nonprofit. That's stated as a national profit. The biggest sponsor for the national chapter is Tesla. So if we establish the first San Antonio collegiate chapter, we have Tesla around the corner.
Right, moving right up into Austin. So
Yes.
maybe even getting some batteries directly from Tesla is a possibility. It's a
long shot.
far-stretched one, but
Tomorrow we have a meeting with Aaron Pope. He's the president of the Austin chapter.
excellent.
And I spoke with him a couple months ago, and he's been really, really helpful for the org as well to guide us through the process of establishing it as a collegiate one. We're the first ones. So there's no president, there's no anything. It's us establishing the first collegiate chapter. He's been a huge help. Tomorrow, I would like to forward the Zoom link to you. How y'all can get on board and ask any questions you want to the president. He's going to be on the right-hand side, and also either he's probably a little bit above us or a little bit sideways. We're alone. We don't want to tackle this and make any mistakes that have been previously solved by
Absolutely.
something. So those high schools, Sam, really, really helpful. I appreciate it. We're going to get that flyer started. That way we can, with approval of UTSA, just putting a couple of classmates up here. This is what we're doing. We're building an electric go-kart. There's a possibility next year your professor can actually do this project with you and start getting more people involved in it. If we start them young, freshman, sophomore, junior, by senior year they know what they're doing. Chances are they're going to be staying somewhere with that project. If they've been growing into it, hey, you know what, UTSA has the same project, let's do it. We can do something better. Hopefully someone can come up with something better than that.
Absolutely.
That's the major thing that I can stress on. So Sam, I'll let you know on the flyer. I'm getting someone from PR to design it. And as soon as it's ready, I'll let you know. So,
All right. Well, thank you very much. If there's no further questions, we'll resume at the next meeting.